Could this be the most realistic airsoft gas blowback rifle to date? Well, we're gonna find out in this Airsoftology product showcase. So I'm here at the VFC offices in New Taipei City, Taiwan, and I've been able to go and have kind of carte blanche to pull what I want, go tuck here into their showroom, which is this amazingly cool place, and get some filming done and see some of the cool stuff. And what I'm looking at here are a lot of products that, if you guys are a US viewer, you're probably not gonna see these show up at US retailers. I wanted to show you some different stuff, things that weren't available. And then I heard about this. This isn't even out yet. It's still on the cusp, and it's part of a new line that VFC is making, and it's called the Forging series. So VFC is known also for their gas blowback rifles. And if you guys live in the States, you may not know that, since it's kind of difficult to get them in because they're so realistic that they're not gonna pass approval for the ATF to get them in the country. But there's taking realism to the next level, and we're looking at basically a Block 2 here with tons of trades and pretty authentic builds. So let's talk about externals first so you guys can see what's really going on with this gas blowback rifle. All right, so this is the Forging series, and of course with a name like that, you know what I'm gonna hit on first, and that's gonna be the upper and lower receiver. The receiver itself, it is pretty much built like the real one in the same process. Now, it's not a real receiver, obviously, it's an airsoft one, but it's built by the same process. It is forged aluminum, CNC'd down to spec for airsoft. So this is top to bottom made of identical materials you're gonna find on a real airsoft gun. And it just doesn't stop with the receiver. We're gonna move on up to the rail, which is a licensed Daniel Defense rail. Now, this is actually in a partnership with Mad Bull that actually holds a license for Daniel Defense, and it is also CNC'd aluminum as well. So when it comes to parts in this gun, we've covered the two aluminum pieces, the lower receiver itself, the upper receiver itself, and the rail. And well, short of a few polymer pieces like on the real gun, everything else is steel. Some actually cast, but most of it is CNC'd as well. And we're gonna kind of hit those parts here in a second. So starting at the tip, you do get the standard flash hider bird cage with the notch so you can put the nice suppressor on, steel outer barrel, of course, all the way down. Now this version, there are two versions of this gun. This is the RIS-2 FSB. There's also the RIS-2, which is probably better known as the Block 2 rail that everybody knows. I want to build a Block 2 rifle, a SOCOM Block 2. That's going to be it. Now this one has the standard M4 sight post here, and it's kind of has a cutout for it. The other one doesn't have that, no front sight post, and is a single rail all the way through. This is in that dark bronze, although it's not in that really bright dark bronze, much more subdued. You can almost not tell probably here until you get to the close-up videos. And of course, being licensed, you saw we have all the licensing and all the correct markings up and down the side of this thing, and realistic teardown on it as well. Also, when it comes to sights, on this one, you do have the Knights style rear sight here. On the other version, you have a Knights front and rear sight. The charging handle is CNC'd, and in fact, the charging handle, I was looking at it, I'm pretty sure it's real spec. I'm sure that I could tell you right now, just knowing this and having real ARs in my own personal collection, that I will be able to get my favorite charging handle off a real AR, put it on this rifle, and use it. Now, that doesn't mean everything else is compatible, and don't think, oh, they built a real gun, because they haven't. This is still airsoft spec. Remember that, guys. This is gas blowback. But for the charging handle, I did notice that, hey, this is kind of real, and sure enough, it's gonna work and be compatible with the real one. Moving on back, of course, steel sling attachment here, 2 on the left, 1 on the right, steel buffer tube, mil spec, which is pretty much airsoft spec, so you can use any mil spec stock on here, including this one. This is your standard crane style, which is just like the real one. Also, moving on to the grip, this is kind of the Knight style standard M4 grip, finish it off. Markings on the side, safe semi-full, some markings here on the other side, all etched in the receiver, actually deep etching, not laser graved, anything like that. Finishing up, CNC trigger guard and metal triggered around things out, and of course all the metal buttons and all the gadgets and gizmos and stuff that you're going to need, including the actual bolt release and the magazine release. And of course, sticking with the realism, we're going to talk about the magazine. This is the new VMAG, which is kind of their very modern thing, but it's not polymer. You look at it and go, oh, maybe it's the polymer mag because this kind of looks like all the other polymer ones that are out there that are popular. This is actually a metal magazine. It's been cast to give this look. So it's not like an insert. A lot of them you see will have like a metal insert with a polymer outside to kind of give you that polymer mag look. This is actually a metal mag that's made to look like polymer, which I think is great because you do have now a real solid build. Also, the fill nozzle here is actually easy to get to. It's not recessed too deep in the magazine, so every green gas can you're gonna get a hold of is gonna work. Inside, it does hold 30 rounds, so you're looking at realism that does not change. You cannot expand that, but the gas reservoir in here is extremely large and you're not gonna have to fill up every single time you load the BBs in. So now that we've talked about externals and build, it's time to talk about the internals, and that's really what matters a lot when it comes to functionality for a gas blowback rifle. I mean, if you guys know, these things do have a tendency to be prone to failure. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of beating and bashing, and every time you pull the trigger, much more than an AHE. So teardown, of course, is gonna be similar. Inside, we're looking at a nice buffer spring. It's kind of soft. It's actually not that hard. It's set up for the high speed setup, as they call it. It's their version 3 system with the version 3 bolt carrier group and buffer system. So it's designed for fast follow-up shots. And we're gonna see how fast in the Chrono section. I do some rapid fire testing on downrange as well as some full auto shooting, but we're still talking about parts here. Moving to the lower assembly and all the trigger group in here, it is steel. It is hardened. This thing is a tank. I don't think you're gonna have any components in here. They're gonna wear out anytime soon. Just looking at the material they use, it is extremely built well on side, including even the bolt catch. Usually that's kind of one of the flaws on a gun like this is the bolt catch itself. So you end up having that part wear down, or the bolt itself. And actually that portion of the bolt carrier group can be a challenge, and that's where they have a new one. This is steel. It is CNC'd steel, but it's not that heavy. I've seen a lot of airsoft guns, gas blowback, and some that have gone the route of steel for the bolt carrier group, which is this assembly right here. And they can be quite heavy. This one is really not. It's actually relatively light, very light actually, for a gas blowback gun, which allows you to have those great follow-up shots. And of course, sometimes it's that balancing act to get efficiency, power, and weight on here. And I think they kind of nailed it. Putting everything back together, just like the real one, closing it on up, locking it in place, and you are good to go. So now it's time to talk about a little performance with this thing on some range time. All right, loading up the 30-round mag, which by the way, these are the standard V mags or the standard VFC mag. So if you have a VFC gas blowback gun, you have full compatibility with this. It's not a new system, even though I'm talking about a lot of new steel and CNC steel components internally on this gun. It's still based on the VFC system, so your magazines will be compatible if you pick this up. So on the range itself, we're looking at a really solid kick for not that heavy of a bolt carrier group. Accuracy is right on par down here on this range. Looking about 25 to 30 meters down there to the end of the range, give or take a few. Had no trouble hitting those targets down there, the paper targets, and even getting on that steel circular plate. It's about a 6-inch plate, be able to hit those at least 50% of the time with using iron sights, and if I did miss, it was just a touch off. Keep in mind, I was using 0.2 gram BBs, which is extremely light, so once you step up to 0.28 or something heavier, this is really gonna shine. I'm gonna tell you right now, accuracy was solid at the 0.2s, and it will be extremely good with a 0.28. Moving to the Chrono, you're looking at meters per second here because I'm overseas. One thing of note when you look at these numbers here, look how little the numbers fluctuate. The Chrono test was the last thing I did. I did the full auto, I did semi-auto, I did everything else in the shooting, and then I moved to Chrono itself. So after running a couple mags, not a lot of cooldown time or warm-up time on the magazine, and it still performed very consistent. I was actually surprised to see the numbers so tight on that actually, just moving just a few feet per second from shot to shot. Also full auto, you can see there's a decent rate of fire even with this, and keep in mind, we're talking 30 rounds here, so I doubt you're gonna be flipping the fun switch and taking it to full auto, but if you had to maybe kind of get some suppression and move to the next position, you have that option. All right, now for the news, I guess bad news. Gas blowback rifles are great. I think you have to spend a lot of work to build a solid one. I know there's some great ones out there, but they all have kind of failure points. But if you want to build something that's really built solid, unfortunately, when you're talking about forging and CNCing, that comes the price tag. So this is the bad news of the review, and probably, if I'm gonna say a negative here, it is definitely you get what you pay for. This is a premium gun. This is not gonna be for everybody. This is up there, and I'm saying really up there. We're looking at a suggested MSRP, and again, remember, this price may fluctuate. I'm talking US dollars, so it might be different based on the country you're in. Around 850 US, that's MSRP. Now, map price or purchase price could be a little lower than that, depending on, again, where you are and what you're picking this up, and importation and taxes. So for something like this, you're really gonna have to spend the coin to get a gun. But to be honest, if you want something that is, I mean, about as realistic as you can get when it comes to build quality, actual feel, balance, and everything of an airsoft gas blowback rifle, I really think that VFC has kind of checked all the boxes here when it comes to their forging series. So now's the time where I ask you what's going on. What do you think of this? Price point, I know it's up there. I know we're talking about steel everywhere and aluminum on a few, the external parts here. I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. What's going on with this rifle? Would you pick one up if you had the money? Are you a fan of gas blowback rifles? Or is this one just a bit above your budget? I mean, mind you, they are extremely limited. In fact, I want to show you something really quick here at the very end. When you get it, you even get your own special medallion to go with it, included in the case. Now, it comes with a nice case too, with all the licensing and trademark and everything on the outside. And you get this. In fact, these actually nest between each other. So as you collect more in the forging series, you'll be able to pick these up. But is this something for you? Is this something that you would add to your collection if you had the money? Is it too much, or is it worth it to have that kind of build? I know a lot of people are gonna go, oh man, at that price, I could almost build a real AR. Well, obviously not one with this rail system and everything, but I get it, I understand. At that price point, it is up there. But considering a lot of countries you can't have one, is this worth it? Let me know down in the comment section below. I'm gonna be down there answering your questions and seeing what you guys wrote. Well, that's it. Thanks again for watching, and if you guys haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you part here of the Airsoftology family. And until next time, go out, play some Airsoft, have some fun, but no matter what you do, call your freaking hits.